stiff arms the crap out of Drake Kirkpatrick right there.
Going down again. Left cue. Glenn Williams.
Fighting through contact, fighting through offensive line, being a double team, multiple moves stacked into one, just a play of pure domination. This is actual film. This is actual football talk. It's a football show. We're supposed to talk football, not storylines. And you are listening to another edition of Blewett Blitz. Actually just recorded like a whole 15, 20 minutes and somehow the internet went out. So I'm recording the whole start of the podcast again, which is always a lot of fun. But the fourth edition of Blewett Blitz, 29 plays of Andrew Thomas today. We're getting into a lot of the draft guys. The draft is in exactly 3 weeks from today. So I have 8 guys to do podcast of on Twitter. I already put out Andrew Thomas and Mekhi Becton, and getting into Tristan Wirfs next, actually today. Once you listen to this, I'll already be putting up some of Tristan Wirfs, and then we're going to Wills. Then we'll get into the 3 receivers, and then Chase on are the 8 guys I have done. Maybe if I have more time, I'll do Jones. And maybe Henderson, but I don't think so. I think honestly, I'll take those 2, 3, 4, 5 days, probably 3 or 4 days to catch up on some free agency things, catch up on Desir and Van Roten, who I don't have their film done. So once I'm done with that whole month of draft, because after the draft, whoever they draft in the first, second, third, fourth, or first, second, third, fourth, fifth, six, whatever they have in later rounds, I'm gonna have to do podcasts on all those guys too. So I'm gonna catch up a little bit, and that's not that's not even including the guys they might sign. I think they're gonna still sign another, maybe starter or 2, no matter who it may be. But Andrew Thomas today, probably do Mekhi Becton on Saturday, and then Wirfs on Monday. So you guys have plenty of content coming your way in the next 3 weeks before the draft. Like I said, 8 more podcasts at the minimum coming. Maybe we'll do 8 podcasts in those 3 or 4 days. We'll do a mailbag right before. I think that sounds good. Just do the housekeeping. JoeRB31 on Twitter. Follow me there. Like I said, you're going to get partial the reviews. I usually, like I just did Andrew Thomas and Becton. I put up a third of the plays I have on Twitter. Because if you're a subscriber to the website, $6 a month, you get the full review. You get the list of strengths and weaknesses that you don't get on Twitter. You get, like I said, 66% more plays than you get off of a review on Twitter. And you also get more characters. So if there's a play I feel like needs a paragraph or 2 to describe, instead of just being limited to 240 characters, I'll extend it a little bit, which helps understand some things. JetsXFactor.com, you can find a lot of my work. You can find Nania's work there, Sabo's work there. We just did articles about like Tom Hennessy, Trayvon Wesco, Jamal Adams, Marcus May, all these crazy different types of things. YouTube, you type in Blewett Blitz, you'll find me there. Subscribe, like it. Hopefully send it to some people who are interested in the Jets. And like I said, we're at 45 reviews. Once we get to 50, I'll choose a random person out of all those people. I'll put it in like a list randomizer, and we'll give a free lifetime. Well, I'll make it lifetime. I don't know if it's supposed to be lifetime, but we'll make it lifetime subscription to the website. So it's a free $50 a month. Just write a couple of reviews. Like I said, it helps me get out to other people. And this podcast takes a lot of work, which last week with Marcus Coleman was great. In my opinion, 41 plays of not Trayvon Wesco, of Brashad Perryman. And we discussed a lot of things. We got into some depth about techniques and releases and what they should do and what they shouldn't do. So I thought it was a good podcast to listen to. So if you haven't listened to that, I would definitely go back. Those things, their shelf life is forever, because until he plays, the shelf life is until August or September when the Jets are playing. So that podcast has a really long shelf life. So I definitely go back and watch that if you haven't yet. Like I said, getting into a lot of the draft guys now. In terms of free agency, before I get into Andrew Thomas, the only thing I'm really looking for at this point, you guys know what it is. It's really 4 positions. Depth wide receiver, whether it be a guy like Geronimo Allison or Taylor Gabriel, just somebody to hold the fort just in case, Perryman gets hurt, which he's had some injury things in the past, not extensive, but there has been some things pop up. Quincy Nunwa, he might not ever play for the Jets again. So if those guys go down, you have Jamison Crowder and Vincent Smith. And I don't know if Vincent Smith should necessarily even be on a roster right now. So I would like to see them bring in a 4th, 5th guy. And if you draft two receivers, fine, then you have some solid depth. That's fine. So looking to that, a receiver. Obviously at left tackle, you're looking for Trent Williams, or you're looking for a guy in Jason Peters. I prefer Jason Peters because he's older. He's 6 years older, but he's a hold the fort guy for a year or two who's still a really good player. He's going to cost most likely less money, and he's also you're not going to need to trade anything, for him. Where a guy in Trent Williams, you might need to trade, a second, third round pick for whatever it may be. So I'm looking to do that on the offensive line. And then defense, corner, we've talked about. I don't know why my nose is so itchy, so I'm still itching. I look like a crackhead. But you have corners who Desir's okay, like a number 2, but opposite of him in nickel sets, you're going to have, if it's just 2 corners, I'm expecting Poole to be there as well. But in nickel sets, which is the primary set in NFL offenses, you're obviously you're going to have Bless Austin or Mollett, and I'm not comfortable with either one of those guys. We've talked about the reason before. If you listen to the podcast, if you've been following me on Twitter, I'm not comfortable with either one of those guys at number 2. So I would really, really like to see my 2 top guys there are Amukamara, who's an older corner, but still pretty solid, and then Denard, who I think is like 27-28 from the Bengals. And I like him a lot. Or even Drake Kirkpatrick. I would like Denard more than Kirkpatrick, but I would like to see another corner added, and then outside linebacker. I'm not in the whole Clowney thing. I don't think the Jets are in the right position to do it. They don't have enough money to really do it. They should reserve some of their money, and he's like a move if you're close to getting to the Super Bowl, then do it. But I'm not all about that. I would much rather go in the much lower tier of guy who might provide just as much pass rush. To be completely honest, Clowney's not a great pass rusher, just straight off the edge. I think a guy on Vinny Curry or Cam Wake who would come in and maybe play 50-60% of the snaps, but not play running downs and obvious running situations and things like that. And that's when you throw in some of the beefy defensive linemen you have with, McClendon and Fadokasi and Shepard and Quinnen Williams and Henry Anderson. And by the way, Quinnen Williams, I just listened to a podcast or an interview, whatever it was, of Oklahoma State offensive line coach, and he was saying that Quinnen Williams was the only guy he prepped for in the last couple of years where he actually changed his game plan to him. So I'm excited for Quinnen Williams. Let's just say that. I'm excited for Quinnen Williams, Chris Herndon, specifically, and even Darnold if he has more time. I'm really excited to see some of those young guys. But like I said, we're going to get into some Andrew Thomas, to wrap up free agency really quickly. Obviously, just did that, because I still do think the Jets will sign some guys. The difference with these reviews is going to be, this one's 29 plays. I think Becton's like 24, Wirfs is like 31. Ruggs is really short. It's like 11 plays, so I might just make that completely free. Because there's not, I get what's on YouTube and what I could find. It's not really like I don't have coaches film. So the problem with that is you'll see me do with McGovern, just to go back to really, the really recent guys, and you have the end zone view and you have the bird's eye. You could really see run plays, what they're trying to do. You could see leverage. You could see footwork. You could see different steps. I can call the steps out. When you're from the broadcast angle, it's easier with tackles than it is guards and centers, but it's still not very easy to break down film from the broadcast angle. So it's going to be a little bit less depth, or a little bit less in depth, to be honest, but you're still going to get a better feel from him than watching YouTube highlights or whatever, or just watching these games yourself. Maybe hopefully I can point some things out to you that you're not necessarily noticing. But just to go over him, 6'5", 315, 36 and 1/8 inch arms, which is absolutely massive arms, which you love to have, that length, that tackle, really any position, but like tackle, defensive end, outside linebacker, corner, you really, really like to have those long arms. The games I watched: LSU, Notre Dame, South Carolina, Arkansas State, Texas, Vanderbilt. Now for the strengths and weaknesses: Vines for arms, as I mentioned, drives feet and run game, powerful player, grip strength, anchor, rarely saw an effective bull rush against him, looks for contact, stays tight to left guard when possible, put in quotes, admittedly spotty here, or not quotes, brackets, whatever. I don't know how those things are called. Good angles to second level, good at passing stunts off, can cover ground with first step, gets out of his stance, gets hands on first, strong punch, aggressive, looks to bury defensive lineman on down or combo blocks, continues to work feet and run game, creates ton of movement, defines. Weaknesses: average foot speed, clunky feet, pads rise and fall in pass sets, can struggle against speed in NFL, inconsistent set points, needs to work on knowing proper set point to take, working in space will have limited effectiveness, can be top heavy in pass sets, plays on toes too often, base inconsistent, tries to deliver too big of shot at times, throwing him off balance or out of position in run game. Can see some wind up in pass pro punches. Hands land wide at times, needs to work on feet, hips covering gaps on first and second level, and pass protection will open hips too soon versus speed instead of gaining depth. So you're going to see some of that stuff. We're going to run through these plays relatively quickly. Like I said, I'm not going to get in as much depth as I typically would, just because, like I said, it's a little bit weird with the broadcast angle. But like I said, you should get a pretty good feel for the player after 29 plays of watching him. And the first thing you're going to see here is you're automatically going to see some of the things I said where his head rises and falls too much in a play, and it's just not. You don't see that with good footwork. When your center of gravity is popping up and down like that, you see the footwork is not super smooth. It's kind of like slamming into the ground. It's not really just smooth in general, and you don't want to see the pad level. You want to be at one consistent pad level. Like even if you just watch the right tackle, you see how his helmet is pretty much in the same spot the entire time, even when he's moving. You want to see that. It shows that you have a better base and you have just smoother feet. And here you're going to see. So I think he frames him pretty well. You see that outside foot pretty much splitting the rusher, and as the rusher gets even with him, he's going to open his hips. You're going to see the length come into play here with his he gets his left hand onto the chest, it looks like, and then the right hand onto the back, and chase on slips. The one thing he does do is sometimes you don't see him get to the set point. You don't see him work too much vertically where he could meet a guy where he's going and throw his hands. Instead, sometimes you see him open his hips up a little bit too much and then lean for it, which he's doing a little bit right here, but it's not killer. Gets his hands on and then finishes him to the ground and lays on top of him. So there's some good here, some bad. You see the length, but you do see the clunky footwork, the average foot speed right here, opening maybe a little bit too early and leaning too much on his toes, but overall it's not too bad. So let's see the next play. Tight to left guard, length up. Always happens. I always have too much windows open and have them not like in the right order because I have like 4 windows open. All right, let me see. Share. Okay. Nope, that's my review of him. All right. Well, not having technical difficulties, I'm just an idiot. So let me just friggin' pull up this play. Okay, there you go. All right. So Thomas tight to left guard, length up arc. All right. So there's obviously a lot going on right here. They could be trying to do a few things with this. Obviously, this is you're right before you see this. One of these guys might drop. I don't think they do, but you're gonna see like a 2-man twist or stunt right here. Most likely. So yeah, you have that twist right there, where this guy's gonna come over the top, which is chase on into the and try to penetrate that A gap. They sent a ton of guys right here, but I like how in this situation, Thomas is not just jumping right to the outside. He has his eyes on chase on it first, and he's staying tight to the left guard. He doesn't want to get too far outside and then have all these guys, somebody twist, somebody loop into that B gap. So he stays tight to him, keeps his hips square, which I like. He watches chase on when chase on loops inside. His eyes flash to the outside, so he that's not his responsibility anymore. Leaves that block, opens his hips, gets his hands onto, again, the left onto the chest and the right onto you can call it the rib cages, and pushes them right up the arc. So again, you're going to see like with the full speed, he doesn't have like the quickest feet. You could see how you'd see instead of, like right here, I would like to see him gain more depth, instead of just opening up too soon like this. Like he doesn't really try to gain depth. He kind of just concedes and opens up. And the problem with that is it's not necessarily, okay, well, because he's passing him, he might not give him the inside. But the problem is when you open up like this, he has a lot of room right there. And what a lot of guys in the NFL will do, if you start to open up early versus them, look at all the surface area they're going to attack. A lot of guys will rush upfield, turn right into you, one hard step to the outside off their right foot, and direct all of their power right through your chest. When you're more square to the line of scrimmage, you're not giving them as much. Obviously, you're with your chest square to the line of scrimmage, along with your hips, you're not giving them as much to turn into to power rush into, speed to power. So he opens up a little bit too soon here. Like I said, I like to see him stay square and get more vertical. You can see how he starts opening up, not when he's even. It's like a yard or two before. So he opens up a little bit too soon. You're going to see him play on his toes a little bit and lean. Good defenders in the NFL. If he's leaning like this, they're either going to rip through, so only working past an arm, or they're going to chop that down, whether it be a cross chop or that near chop, and he's going to fall right on his face. So it's kind of, it's like okay that it's good that he stays tight. His eyes are good, drag hand. Maybe you even checks him a little bit right there. But he opens his hips up a little bit too soon for me right there, at least in my opinion. So you see some of the length though with his hands being able to get onto that guy. So next play, tries too hard. Okay, so he's most likely going to try too hard in the run game because, like I said, is one of his weaknesses. All right, so they're mid outside zone, and Thomas takes his like zone drop step, where any step like in the way of the zone is people usually call a zone step, but to be more precise, it's like a zone / drop step because he's dropping that foot right there. So I'm gonna call that a drop step. And that drop step, it really just allows him to read the offensive line, even though in the NFL you don't see that as much in the NFL. I noticed it's like a little bit different footwork with college, where a lot of guys in the NFL aren't necessarily just taking that drop step, even when they have inside leverage or outside leverage on the guy. Something I noticed a little bit more with both him and Beckham, they're taking like a lot of drop steps to read a little bit more, but drop steps. And he's going to work with the left guard on that column of 4, column of 5. It's kind of hard to tell. Column of 4I or 4, and he works with the left guard on him, and he works back to the Mike backer. And my problem with him is you're going to see him really lean into this block and commit himself hard, and I'll play at full speed. See how he overcommits? I said that he overcommits in the run game, trying to deliver too big of shots and doesn't take like the proper angle or whatever it may be up to the second level. Where here, you want him to stay more square, use more of that cross shove that I talk about, stuff him into the left guard. But instead he really tries to load up and deliver a shot. You'd see that he doesn't have good balance when he's throwing the shot. So he's really just trying to direct all of his power right through him without maintaining a good base. So if he doesn't make contact with him, he's not really going to be able to use that body that he's throwing that punch against as a rebound, which he doesn't. And you can see how straight he is. You're not balanced at all right here, straight up. There's nothing to, combat the angle of your upper body and your shins. You want, like I said before, you want the thighs working at the opposite angle. So he's way too off balance right here, leans way too far into it, commits too hard into it. Mike linebacker scrapes over top and is able to get in on the tackle of the running back. And regardless of what happens with the rest of the play, I'm evaluating him. So even if this play did work out, which there are, like I said, simpletons out there who, even if he has a bad play, if it's a good play result, they'll say, oh, well, they got 10 yards. It's not the point. It's not the point. So he might have a good play on here, which he will, where they get tackled for a loss for 5 yards. So, all right. And this is something I said in the last podcast when I recorded the first 20 minutes and then I got deleted, is that he is my OT3. I have my big board. Like I said, the big board is only 8 players. It doesn't include Tua Tagovailoa. It doesn't include, Herbert. It doesn't include Chase Young or any of those guys. It's just the guys I'm watching, and it's mostly the guys I think the Jets are going to be picking. So it's only out of the 4 offensive linemen, 3 receivers, and Chase on. And Thomas is my number 5 overall player. As I go through this, I'll reveal my ranking, but Thomas is my 5. He's my OT3, but for the Jets, he's OT4. I feel like the other guys can move a little bit better than him. I like to see him more in gap power, moving bodies instead of working in space and having to get, positional leverage over that physical leverage you need in the gap and power scheme. and the Jets are, a pass happy team, 11 personnel. They're gonna ask him to move in space. He's not gonna have as much help than he would in one of those other schemes where it's more about, like I said, just power, down blocking, all kicking guys out, drive blocking, a lot of those type of things. So he's my worst fit for the Jets, but still, people have asked if he's there at 11, do you want the Jets to take him? Yes. Now, if I were Joe Douglas and I'm not, would it be a tough like picking between him and Judy, who Judy's my second overall player out of those guys I watched? I love Judy. You still probably need to take Tom, or you still need to take Thomas because that's more important for Darnold. But at that point, maybe are you looking to trade down a couple of spots and grab a Jones or a Jackson? There's a lot of different people who feel differently about those guys. Overall, I would say probably just take Andrew Thomas, because I think in any other draft, he's easily no doubt about it, top 10 pick, the best tackle, the second best tackle in the class, but because this is the top, one of the best tackle classes we've seen in years and years and years in terms of the top. He might slot out of that top 10, maybe, to the top 15, right into the end of that top 15 area. Maybe he might go second in terms of the second offensive tackle. He might be the first offensive tackle, depending on how safe guys want to play, because he's a safe prospect. He doesn't have a very low floor to me. So we'll see. But this is some good movement skill from him. So he uses, again, I can't really tell the footwork. I don't necessarily here. You're going to see a lot of NFL guys use that ricochet technique where they're going to shift their momentum onto that right foot, drive off of that right foot instep, and throw their shoulder into him to generate some more power. Here, he's kind of leaning for the block and just steps right into him. Just throws a shoulder out there. So it's not necessarily the best footwork. Again, I'll like to see it from the end zone angle to see exactly how his feet are, how much he's leaning. Looks like he's leaning a little bit, but like I said, these reviews are going to be a little more simple because I don't have that view. But works on the combo with the tight end. He's the high leg of this block, where the tight end is the postman, where the postman is supposed to take over the block, which the tight end tries to do that. It's going to be hard against a defensive end who looks like he's at least 290, I would say. So Thomas assists him the best he can, scrapes, gets up to the linebacker level, stays square, and is able to pick up that linebacker. I can't tell where his right hand is. Looks like it might be inside, but drops his shoulder into him and then is able to drive him out and define that. So he does a good job here. The rest of the line doesn't. I don't necessarily love the call right here. Again, because you might have man right here, man, and maybe man, but you still have a 1-2. You have an 8-man box, and it looks like you're going to have man coverage on the top right here. So if I was Georgia, this is a play you check out of, and you either throw that bubble or change it to something else. I don't necessarily love running against 8-man box, especially when you're expecting a tight end to be the postman on a 300-pound, 290-pound defensive end right there, especially in a tight zone. If this is an outside wide zone to the weak side, then I get it a little bit more. But when you're running this tight or belly zone, when you're expecting a cutback, it's a very likely scenario, at least for. I just don't like the setup of this play, to be honest. But regardless, Thomas does his job, helps out the tight end the best he can, gets on to number 6, who's blitzing the linebacker, and ducks his head into him and drives him, out of the play, at least if the running back were to cut up field and have some room. So let's see here. I'm just going to run through all these plays. Sometimes I try to read what I said before so I can get, it can be a little more crisp. I always try to do that, and then I never do it. I just don't. I just like we'll just run through it together. 5. Okay. Oops. Wings that to the top. Okay. Similar play as last play. Another drop. It's like a brace step right there with Thomas. Doing that, he's just trying to open his hips up a little bit and work himself into the inside without gaining ground upfield. Drops the shoulder into him. Good job taking on the inside shoulder of the 3 tech, the 4-eye right there, who is late to react to the snap. Takes on the inside shoulder. Still stays square to the linebacker level. Stands him up a little bit. and the tight end attempts to take over on this called a tray block, and works up to the linebacker we're actually. The good thing about this play too is you don't want to leave combo blocks too early. It depends on who's teaching. Like you might want to combo block and then work up to the Mike backer. If it's the outside zone and you know he's going to start to scrape over the top on more of inside plays, you don't want to leave early because especially 3rd and 1s, you want to reset that line of scrimmage to drive him a little bit because they might be running right behind your ass. So you're the second level is kind of the second level is kind of the secondary worry on this, on this type of run where outside zone, different run situation, they might be more of a focus. So good job by him dropping his shoulder, creating some movement, keeping his eyes on the second level, getting off of that block with good thing. He's just using like that lever technique, using his arms and gets off of it, gets onto the linebacker, and moves him out of that gap just a little bit. So he really defines that hole for that running back, and look where the running back cuts, right where Thomas is doing his work. So good job by him moving some bodies in the run game right there for his running back. Good and bad. All right, let's see what goes on here. All right, you're going to see something like the foot speed right here. He covers some decent ground on that first step. He covers almost like a yard-ish. To me, it looks like he could cover, or he could load up a little bit more on that post leg right there. Doesn't look, you want it to be almost like 90 and 10. Like you'd see a guy like Joe Thomas almost look like he doesn't even have any weight. I can't even think like a one-legged, like a lunge almost. And it really allows you to load up power and explode off of that leg. He looks almost like 60-40 here. So I'd like to see a little bit more load up on that leg. I think it's just Chason, who is an interesting player, but when he comes from, I think his 2-point stance a little bit like this is not the same player. I'm just talking about them in terms of their stance and their explosion out of it. Polite had a really good explosion out of his stance when it was a 4-point. 2-point is a little bit of recoil. You see a little bit of recoil in Chason's game. That's what I see. But when he is 4-point stance, when he times it right, holy crap, he can move. So Thomas throws out the drag hand. You see that right arm right there. He stays tight to the right guard. But here, he's not like at this point. He needs to just gain depth. So like this is like the inconsistent set points. If he were to just to gain depth right here, he wouldn't be forced to open his hips like that. So he's not really trying to gain depth. And I know he's trying to throw that drag hand, but you gotta abandon that at a certain point in your snap. So if he was just to stay square to the line of scrimmage and gain depth, now you throw that left arm, into the outside pec, the inside pec, the V, wherever it lands. And then you're able to bring your right leg around and pretty much just drive him completely out of the play and up the arc and attacking that hip with the right hand or the rib cage, whatever it may be. But you're getting a lot more force into your punch and you cut him off really when you're not going to fight to gain depth right here and just open up. Now he's just working against your arms instead of your legs. It's all upper body here, and you're going to be off balance. Which he is off balance. You're not balanced right here. And guys in the NFL are going to use a hump, an inside spin, whatever they have to do. And when they start feeling you lean like this, they're going to rip through, they're going to chop, they're going to do a bunch of things. But you don't want to be, top heavy and really leading for blocks. So I'd like to see a better set point right here and him get more vertical. Now you don't want to get too vertical too quickly because you don't want to cut inside. But when you're seeing rushing hard outside like this, you gotta start to gain some depth right here. And that's not necessarily because of slow feet. At least it doesn't look like him when I'm playing in like slow motion. It's just because he doesn't try to. So that's what I said, like him not knowing the proper set points and things to take or the proper sets. And there were some times where he vertical sets where I'll even see him 45-degree set. The guy is tight, but going to the next play. Overset but recovery. All right, so he's gonna set too far outside on this one. First chase on. Yeah. All right. So this isn't necessarily a vertical set. It's not necessarily a 45-degree set. It's kind of in between both. But you really want that outside foot splitting him. So how his outside foot is pointed he should be almost like here, where I'm circling with my mouse. So he oversets right here. He jumps too far outside, and what that does is now all of his momentum is going to the outside right here. And look what's here, a huge gap to the B gap, and he's not even at your level yet. So he's going to be able to stick that right foot hard to the ground. And if he were better, if he were cleaner with his technique, an NFL guy, even a decent rusher, when they're reaching like that and they're off balance, look what they defeat, that one long extended arm, which is not generating a lot of power, with really his upper body and his lower body are like disconnected right there, where it's just all upper body into this punch. It's more of like, it's not even really a punch, it's like a containment hand, like an oh shit hand basically. And if he were to defeat that, he's pretty much screwed. Or if he rips through it, if he does something better, then he tries to chop it, but it's like almost too shallow into his body where he's not able to chop it. And Thomas is able to recover because he throws out that hand, but that's not going to work always in the NFL, not even close. But he does recover. You see that length right there. And then, like I said, he's not people will automatically assume because he's not Wills or Wirfs or Becton, he's a bad athlete. I think he's just a decent athlete, and compared to those guys, he looks like a bad athlete. But he's able to recover, get his right arm in there, drop his post, and then he wrenches them, where he's going to get that right hand inside, and then he's going to be pushing on that right hand, to straighten his back out while you're pushing on his hips or back, so you're pushing like two opposite directions, kind of just like to stand him up so he can't keep leaning forward into that rush. So he wrenches him. You see how he starts standing him up? You see what I'm talking about? So right hand into the chest, left hand onto the back or the hips, and they work in opposite directions, and it really stands him up. And he wrenches him right past the quarterback's level. So some good and some bad right there with Thomas. Thomas versus speed. Let's see. Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of him opening up really, really soon. And when a guy is outside like this, and unless you know you're going to get there, which honestly he might be able to just keep 45-degree setting right here, but he goes to 45-degree set and then like gets into a vertical. So if you're in a 45-degree set, which I don't agree in this situation, you just want to make sure you're gonna throw that outside hand. Just make sure you keep shuffling laterally. So he doesn't really do much here with his set, where in this situation, when you can tell that he's going to rush hard, you can tell just by his body language. He's going to rush right here. This is Chase on, by the way. I would like to see a vertical set right here, unless is it a quick pass? No, it's not even a quick pass. So get vertical. Just load up on that leg, explode backwards. Don't overset. Don't get too far outside or necessarily too vertical so you can cross your face. But even if you do get too vertical and they go to cross your face, you're able to push them shallow over the quarterback. So there's a give and a take there, but you don't want to open up right away. You don't want to overset in terms of getting to the outside. If you're a little bit too vertical, as long as your hips are square, you can recover from that. So here I would like to see him vertical set instead of taking that hard step outside like he's going to 45-degree set and then open. Because now, again, look, let's talk about he's not taking the proper set point for me. And now it's a lot of arms and a lot of leaning on his toes. And he's able to use that length to push him up a little bit, but strong bend from Chase on there. That power through contact bend that we talk about, and he's able to get his hands on the quarterback. This is ruled incomplete. You can see the ball is coming forward, but it's because of his set. And obviously his foot speed isn't the greatest, because maybe if he was a guy like Wirfs or Wills or whatever, they might be able to catch him and chase him up that arc. But because his foot speed isn't the best, he's not able to. But I don't like his set right here. So he lets up the quarterback hit right there. Chase on angle to second level. All right, play 9. Breezing through this. We're a third of the way done already. Like I said, these are going to be a little bit less of in-depth reviews of these guys because the broadcast angle sucks. If you know anybody who can get college film, I'll pay you to get college film. So maybe not. Probably. So let's see here. Left tackle again. I think he takes good angles to the second level. I think I've seen some people say he doesn't take good angles. I think he takes good angles to the second level, to be honest, from what I've seen. At least I didn't see all of his games, though. I don't have access to all of his games. I wish I did. But I think he's pretty effective in those angles. So right here, it's a good angle. He's not taking the angle to the linebacker, to the will linebacker. Some people call if this a Mike, this a Jack. Some people call, if it's like a 4 down, some people might call it a Sam, a Mike, a Will, and a Jack. It's all dependent on freaking people's terminology. In this set, I'm calling him the Will. You might call him the Sam, the Will. I mean the Mike and the Will. But he works up to that Will with a good angle. Again, not to him. He's taking that like I think with Scarnecchia calls like straight line blocking, where he's taking that angle to where he's going to be. Takes the angle where he's going to be, gets his right hand probably into the chest, and just drives him. And this is an RPO. Not a great RPO. I don't know why he's so hesitant to go inside this number 3 receiver, which makes it a tougher throw and not a good throw by. That's not a bad throw by Fromm. I guess he should lead him a little bit though, because the cornerback has a chance. But we're not evaluating Fromm. We're not evaluating the Georgia offense. So good block by Thomas. Good angle to the second level. Good movement. All right. Okay, so I'm just gonna play this in full speed, and the only thing I want you to watch during me playing this full speed is watch his athleticism. Like I said, he's not a bad athlete. He's just not Becton Wills or worse. So this is pretty. That's decently athletic there. Like I said, you can get by with him. He's not. He doesn't have his feet in the sand. It's just not elite or near elite like the other guys are with their foot speed and things like that. Even though their technique might not be the best of the time, their foot speed, their smoothness is all really, really good of all of those guys. So, he's not covering a lot of ground with that first step. I'm fine with that in a situation when guys are tight like that. You want to especially with a guy like two stand up guys like this. There definitely could be a twist or a stunt game coming here, especially with 5 down guys. You can do a lot with this. So you want to stay tight to that B gap as long as you can, especially with this type of look. That guy drops into like a whole wall defender, and Thomas doesn't cover a lot of ground with that first step. Good thing he's not oversetting. Staying tight to the B gap. Short, choppy steps for the most part. Again, they're kind of slamming down a little bit too hard for me. You want to see more smoothness in his steps, but he is taking. You want to see short, choppy steps. You do not want to see big steps, minus that first step. Maybe if they're wide, wide technique, whatever it may be. But you don't really want to ever see big steps. If you're skip pulling, square pulling, open pulling, you might want to see some big steps, but not typically. Like I said, rarely there are situations where you do want to see big steps to cover ground, things like that, on those type of blocks I was talking about, but not here. As you can see, like I said, he's going to penetrate. He's going to try to, call it a penetrator. You can call it. He's trying to pick them. Some people call it like a pick loop, and he's trying to pick pick Thomas basically and carry him inside. Thomas does a good job of not overcommitting. He power steps. That's what I call a power step, where his post foot's going to stay as post foot. So they're going to stay. It's hard to, I can't do it with my fingers because it's like working in a mirror, but his post foot's going to stay up. And instead of committing to the block, we're going to drop his post, carry him inside, push him, and have to flip back. He's going to power step. Where power stepping, you're really just using your arms, and your post foot is going to go in the direction of the post foot. So your post foot's up with the right foot. You're going to go into the right direction and just use your arms. So I call that power stepping. So he power steps right here. Just uses his arms, keeps his hips square to the line of scrimmage, and then is able to drop back outside, shuffle, get his hands on. He's leaning a little bit, but the quarterback's getting rid of the ball, so it's not a huge deal. This penetrator, this picker, he might be wrapping his arm a little bit around Thomas, which drags Thomas inside a little bit. Again, I like to have all 22 film for that, but Thomas is able to get back outside to get his hands on. So overall, a good block from Thomas in many aspects. 2 blocks. This would be 2 plays in a row, I guess. Usually, if it's 2 blocks, like when it's they're plays right in succession of each other. So, all right. So let's look at another RPO. Yeah, he's reading these secondary players like this, like cover triangle, and if they start to attack downhill, he's just going to throw that bubble, make it a which would be a true one-on-one situation. He breaks that. Does he break the tackle? Okay, yeah, for 2-3 yards. So Thomas is going to down block on this play. It looks like it's going to be a combo, and he's going to work up to the to this backer, or the high leg is, which is the left guard, and he just supposed to overtake that block. And a lot of times, instead of seeing him get his hips, in front of guys and cover gaps, which is more of the zone-based scheme, which you have to do is get in front of guys. He's more of that power drive blocker where he just wants to bury guys, and which you can do in zone too, obviously, but instead of trying to overtake the guy and, use the shuffle technique, use whatever, he's just going to get right into the guy, which, again, he has to watch a little bit with leaning over here, but he's just trying to get into him quick. It's okay in this situation. You just want to watch that a little bit. It's something to note. A lot of waist bend, as you can see. And he just drives him right to the ground. You're going to see his leg drive, leg drive, leg drive. He'll drive people all into the ground. So they gain 3 yards. The next play should be second and 12, if I'm right. Second and 12. Jet motion. Another called a tight zone, belly zone. Again, it's hard to tell at this angle, and I'm not trying to watch it a million times. Good block from him right here. So you're going to see him. He's right here. Sorry if people aren't able to immediately find the left tackle, but works downhill and gets looks like it's probably his right hand onto the rib cage or the armpit. Left hand's most likely, or it should attack the hips, even though it doesn't necessarily look like by the body it's attacking the hips. But he pushes that guy inside. You're gonna see him move him 2 yards inside. That looks to be like a 2-eye technique or a 2 technique. Moves him, doesn't overcommit, pushes him, stays square, and then stays square to that linebacker he's gonna work up to. Shuffles, gets on him. So he creates a lot of movement in that B gap. Moves that guy, moves this guy. Good job by Thomas on that block, even though the run doesn't work out there overall. Length. All right. I remember writing this down. I think it's more of a negative play, even though it's kind of labeled positively. Yeah, so they're running an end around, fake inside zone. You have the jet mode. It looks like an inside zone split into a end around, and Thomas works on the combo with the left guard. He might get a hand on right there. It looks like he might not even get a hand on that 3 technique inside of him, and then he goes to work up to the second level. I just see him say a little bit more in control here. A little bit too big of steps. I just seem to say a little bit more square and a little bit more balanced in his base, and allow him to kind of adjust his angle quicker. You can see how he kind of, if this guy was to really shoot hard, which this linebacker does shoot relatively hard, but if he was to just straight away, Thomas might not be able to reach him. So let's see a little bit less commitment to that 3 tech. Where if he's going to knife inside like that, let him knife inside, stay square to that linebacker and get your hands on him. Cut him off right there. He goes a little bit too far outside, a little bit too out of control, or a little bit out of control. But you see his length come into play where he's able to reach into him and just truck. Here, I'll play it in full speed. You're going to see him truck him over right here, even with just his hands. He tossed him to the ground. So some good and some bad. I'd actually probably, if I had to put that in a negative or a positive, I'd probably call it a positive. He does overcommit maybe a little bit to the guy inside. So play 13. Okay, so similar. You're seeing like a lot of down blocks, combo blocks. Again, similar situation. They're running called another tight zone, belly zone. Again, I'm not going to try to go through everybody's hats and see where they're going and how they're trying to block and the leverage they're trying to get, especially in this angle. It'll take me a while. I probably did it for the article. I'm not doing it right now. So he works up right to the second level. Again, takes a good angle. You'd like to see a little bit more balance. Again, that waist bend, you don't want to see that. Guys in the NFL are going to sidestep you. We're going to blow right by him, and they're going to make you look silly. So I would definitely like to see him less waist bending, playing on his toes to the second level and stay more balanced. He is able to get his hands onto the linebacker and take him out of the play. But overall, again, some positive, some negative there. Another combo block. Watching a lot of combo blocks. Right here, left tackle. Like I said, instead of taking over the block, he'll take over the block by just burying the guy into the ground. So, offensive line, all zone steps, they're running zone to the right, whether it be a tighter belly again, which Georgia likes to do clearly. You have the three tech really try to get low, turn his body to avoid contact, things like that. And get his base super, super low, so it's harder to attack. But you have Thomas who gets into him, and it looks like he attacks the armpit. But when Thomas is going to attack you on a combo, on a down block, and you're not able to brace immediately against just him, good luck with him not moving you 2, 3, 4 yards or not burning you into the ground, because that's what he does right there. He is a powerful guy, and if he's able to get hands on you in that contact point and drive through his legs, it's game over. He's going to be a mauler in the run game for sure. He needs some work in his pass stuff, but he's going to be a mauler in the run game for sure. So, again, zone, if it's inside, belly tight, I think he fits better. He definitely fits better than if it would be, if it were a wide or an outside or a mid. But I feel he's best on counters, pull. Not, I don't want him pulling on like a GT counter or anything like that, or OT counter, whatever you want to call it. But if he's to kick a guy out and the GT is coming from the opposite direction, then he'd be good. So another situation in the run game where he's working on a down block. They all call it down block zone. They're all like zone stepping again. So Georgia really likes to, instead of having an point of an A or B gap when they're all zone stepping, they like to kind of go to that backside A gap or front side A gap and let the running back decide from there. So here you're going to have him working to the three technique, him to the three technique, and he is able to take on it looks like the inside shoulder. I'm not sure about the hand placement, but he just drops his head into him, and you're going to see, just watch this guy's hat right here. You're going to see him, get blown backwards. You see how much movement Thomas creates right here? So if he gets his hand out and you see he gets, I think, a little bit pumped after this play. It's a touchdown. So some positive negatives, like I said, with the lack of all 22, it makes it a little bit more simple in terms of what you can really get into with footwork and things like that. So next play. Another time he's working down against the two technique and the left guard to get into it. They're running a inside zone read option, and so they're not going to worry about the backside edge right here, because that's what the quarterback has to worry about. If he crashes down, he's going to pull it. And Thomas, not sure about where his hands go again. I hate broadcast, but he's just going to drive through his lower body, his trunk, and just take this guy to the ground again. So there's not a lot of times where you see him working out, down, where he's not going to create a ton of movement on a guy. And that's without what I've seen to be perfect hand placement. If he had perfect hand placement, attacking guys' hips and things like that, and had a little bit better of a base or didn't have as much waist bend, he'd create even more movement. So with more coaching, he could be even better. Patient with hands. Okay. So this is definitely a better pass set for me. So you see how he's vertical setting, and if this was like Chase on, he might open his hips right here, and just try to carry him with his hands and chase him up that arc. But I like how he gets into his pass set. You see how in this pass set his feet are better here. He's definitely more comfortable with whoever he's playing. When he was playing Chase on, you saw his pedal, up and down, up and down, up and down, and his feet stomp into the ground. It's really clunky and not super smooth and balanced. And Here you see what I'm talking about with the helmet level. It's much more consistent. It still pops up a little bit up and down, but overall it's still much more consistent. His hips stay square. Now, I'd like to have the other view for this, but it looks like his hips get frozen a little bit, or his feet get frozen right here. You don't ever really want to see the feet stop moving, and it looks like when he goes to punch, his hips freeze. And the thing about the two, so he does alter his punches, which is good, because if you're just a guy who throws your outside hand, guys will prepare for that. If you're just a guy who throws your inside hand, they'll chop it down and spin you inside. If you're guys who shoots two hands, guys are going to prepare for that in NFL. But I do think he changes up his punches enough where you can't predict them. Here it looks like he throws both hands. You got to be sure when you throw both hands, which he does, that you're going to land them. When you shoot two hands, your hips are locked. It's going to be a lot harder for you to get outside or inside. When you throw one hand, you're not locking your hips out. It's just the way the body works. So it looks like his feet freeze a little bit here, throws that punch, and you see how he has to kind of work back to him. Like there's a little bit of that lag right there. So I would like him to keep maintaining his depth, throw that punch, but keep seeing, or to continue to see his feet work backwards. So it looks like he freezes a little bit, but he's still able to get outside, left hand inside, right hand onto most likely what is the back, and able to maintain the block. So plus play for him there. Stunt pickup. By the way, the Becton film, it's like I said, it's only 24 plays, but it's a lot of the same stuff. You're going to see Becton take that drop step, get his hands on a guy, completely just torque him outside, throw him outside. Next play, throw him outside. Next play, throw him outside. You can do that in college, in the NFL. Like I said, he needs a decent amount of work on his technique, even though there are some guys who will be able to use just straight power against, but it's not going to happen as much, especially when you're not playing, linebackers who are 215 pounds. They don't have good technique and things like that. So, stunt pickup, they're running a ET stunt right here with the 5 tech and the 3 tech. Again, the tighter they are, the more you want to expect a twist or a stunt. So should expect it at this point. Gets into his pass set. You see his feet are a little bit more clunky here. You see the pad level on this one. It's not as consistent. And his feet are slamming to the ground. They seem a little bit more level, and you'll be able to react, laterally a little bit better. But overall, he again, like, power steps right there. He doesn't drop his post and carry him inside. He plays long, shoves him inside, stays square to the outside with that power step, and is able to get his hands onto the rusher right there. So good job by him. I'll play that in full speed. Again, he has some athleticism. It's just not like the other guys, but that you could see how clunky he is right there. Clunky. It's just not as smooth as when you watch the other guys. I will show you. So his length is good though. Good power step. Good job with staying square, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so this is good. This is good and bad. The one play we have from behind, I think this is the only play. So he drops that left foot. He's opening his hips up to the edge. This is where I'd say, like, okay, he's not taking his feet with him into the block. Do you see how straight his legs are when he comes into this block? All of his momentum is going through that guy. Like I said, you want to work your angles. This is pretty much like a straight angle, and his body's leaning hard into him. You see some of the bending from the waist right here, where his legs are straight and his body's leaning over. Where you want to see, ideally, pretty much the body be on the same level or the same angle as the legs, with the thighs, the knee to the thigh working at a direct opposite angle with your hips, sunk, to kind of counteract your leaning forward and to have a good base. And so he gets his hands inside, but his hands shoot from low and wide. So overall, I think he blocks this guy, but I don't think it's a good play, to be honest. I would mark with a negative on this one. So leans into it. And if this linebacker were to get his hands inside and jolt him back and then hop back and rip him to the ground, he's going to the ground right here. But the linebacker is not good enough. You see how he is super off balance right here. This is not because he's driving into him. This is because he is off balance because he hops back. It's just not the best move to get away. So he's super off balance. So he is able to block him and stay with the block and drive him outside. But overall, I don't think that's a positive play, to be completely honest. So play 20 of 29, top heavy. Yeah. As you see, you hear people say, okay, well, he leaning on his toes, leaning into blocks, making him off balance. And there are some times where his base is actually, people come in and said, oh, I think his base actually is too wide on some blocks. I think his base is too narrow right here. His feet are pretty close. They're coming pretty close together. So I'm going to say he's too narrow of a base. His hips are a little bit too high for me. I want to see him more sunk into his stance as he's getting back. And again, he's opening his hips up pretty early here. I would like to see him vertical set. If you're going to vertical set, he doesn't need to turn his hips right here. His hips are turning too early, so he's giving up his chest. Where if he were to vertical set, keep your hips square and give him less to work against. You're giving a lot of things to work against here. In terms of the edge right here. Or even here, if you wanted to like 45 degree set, you could, or jump set him, but he needs to change this up. Not really effective with his set again here. Leans into him. The guy looks like he gets into his chest and then rips him down, pulls him down into a arm over, and it leads to a quarterback hit right here. It's not a fumble. It's an incomplete pass. So needs to fix that up. Drives feet, finish block. All right. Some tight quarters. You definitely like to see him in tighter quarters, in my opinion. All right. So, again, he's working down. Again, the offensive line is all flowing to the right. He's going to work to cut off or just drive the 4 I-Tech, wide 3, loose 3, and left hand onto the back. Right hand is most likely inside, and you're going to see him. He rolls up the power through his hips a little bit right here, right there, and then you're just going to see him drive off of those feet. The left foot is working to like get lateral, and you're going to see him that right foot working off the instep right there. So he just driving off the power of that instep with that right foot, and pushes the guy one onto the ground and pushes him, good 3 yards into the end zone. Look at that lower leg just drive from Thomas. He doesn't stop his feet. He doesn't stop his feet until play is over. I like that. I definitely like that drive right there. That is just effort. That is smarts. Do not stop turning those feet. Hell of a block. All right. 22 combo. All right. Works on a combo again with the left guard on the 3 technique, hand onto the back, right hand hopefully inside. So here again, you want the hand onto that hip, and the right hand inside, but because really when you're onto his back like this, you're not really creating pressure in any positive type of way. You're not really assisting yourself with driving him or really resetting that line of scrimmage. But he's able to get a right hand inside, it looks like. And then once that guy slips off of his block, he works right to the number 22, who is pressing down the line of scrimmage a little bit more, gets his hands onto him, and drives him a few yards back. So overall, good. Like I said, there are definitely some things to improve on with that block. A little top-heavy length helps. We've seen that be a little bit of a trend. Again, I didn't even look at his upper half. I looked at just his lower half. I'm assuming his pad level is going to bounce right here. Yeah. Again, those feet are not super smooth. Again, you don't want to reach for blocks. This is just a split second early that he reaches for this, but he just continue in your vertical set. And even if you don't want to continue in your vertical set because you don't want him to cut inside, you could run your feet in place, root down, whatever it may be. But you can't just you don't want to lean into the block. And you see him lean. See that lean? That's not a good, like completely straight leg, pretty much completely straight, leaning. And he's going to fall over if he doesn't have that point of contact. That's why he's not balanced. So I would like to see him just to continue to gain depth right here and be ready for the inside move. And if he does, get the hand in, get your hand on the hip and push him right past the level of the quarterback. That's fine. You know, there's going to be times where guys are going to try to cross your face. He's got to respond to it, but you don't want to lean for that block. Leans for it, and then his length helps. This is where the length, you know, the guy looks like he's going to use like that Aaron Donald like jump by that he does with the arm over. I don't know if he chops the outside arm or what he tries to do right there. Like can't see, but length. That's where the length comes in. That's that extra inch or two that matters. And he pushes him right past the quarterback. The quarterback hits the number one on that snag jerk route just a little bit. So 24. Okay. Good angle to second level. Again. So he's most likely at the beginning of this play looking to block. This could have been another RPO if this linebacker crashed inside with like that bubble screen right there. That's not what happened. The linebacker, you know, gained some width, so he hands the ball off, and he's going to bypass that inside technique because he is going to try to get outside right here. So he's going to pass that off to the tight end. So I like that because he's definitely going to block him here. I don't think he's supposed to just bypass him off of the pre-snap alignment. So he passes him off. Okay, yeah, good. He gets a little hand check on there. Doesn't do too much, but it does disrupt him at least a little bit, and then works to the linebacker. Good angle. Leaning a little bit for the block. You better base right here. Shuffle in front of him. Better base, but you don't necessarily want to see this. So good angle, but better block execution needed. Is still able to get his hands onto him and take him, you know, out of the play. So some positive, some negative. 5 plays left. Play 25. Combo to second. So they work on that tray block, the combo with the tackle and the tight end. Doesn't overcommit to it. They're gonna read that back. If that backer scrapes over the top, he's gonna probably try to become the postman, and this guy scrape over the top to take the linebacker, but the linebacker attacks the interior B gap. Good job by Thomas. You know, not overcommitting too much. His hips are a little bit overcommitted, but as long as he's aware of that inside, it's okay. Doesn't commit his full body. Yeah, it kind of does initially, but not too long into the block. Still just uses length, which is good. Gets his hand into the ribs, throws them, gets square, gets low. This is better. Might lean a little bit into it, but still gets lower because once he adjusts that block, drop his weight, right hand into the chest, and completely takes him out of the play. So this is a really good combo block from him. He's a really good combo blocker for sure. Some technical things that every college player is going to need to work on. There's not one perfect college player. So there's not really one perfect NFL player, to be honest. I've never seen a perfect player, no matter who it is. You're not going to be perfect on every rep. There's just absolutely no way. So there's guys who are near perfect, but let's see. So with this play, this is like so he's getting into a vertical set, like a short vertical set. He's not covering too much ground, which is fine. The short choppy steps right here is fine with the guy tighter inside with that edge right there, the tighter edge. So I'm fine with the choppy steps for sure. He's playing a little bit on his toes right here. I think he's leaning a little bit forward. I would like to see him have a little bit better of a base and have a little bit of a more arched back. So he's playing a little bit on his toes for me right here. You see he's leaning a little bit forward. It's not too bad, but I just wanted to point it out. And again, I Me personally, I only like two-handed punches if you're in tight quarters, not versus edge players, unless they're right over top of you and they're bull rushing you right. Well, not bull rushing because then you want to lift, but if you're going to jump set them, two-hand punch, that's fine. 45-degree set, you have the chest, you see it, fine. Vertical setting, two-hand punches are risky. So if they see that coming again in the NFL, they might have a better spin move up their arsenal here. Maybe attack more outside, get a tighter spin move directly into him. Split his body with that foot, chop and really roll off of him. This isn't the best spin move. He doesn't eat up enough ground for me, and his step is more lateral instead of, you want to see it more like kind of like splitting his legs, so that there's less recovery time, and so that actual spin is more effective. But he defeats the arms, so he chops down, and that's because I don't like that two-handed punch. That's a little bit too risky for me right there. But he is able to recover. Again, this is where the length comes in. He shows some athletic ability. I can see it, chasing that guy up the arc. That's why when he starts literally chasing him, gets his hands on and pushes him up the arc. So that you definitely see that length come into play right there. So 3 plays left. Then we're done on Thomas until the Jets draft him, and then maybe I don't know, maybe more film will come out or something like that. But there was not a ton out there. And this isn't film, this is broadcast. So I'm breaking down broadcast. So okay, so he's working on the combo again with the left guard, left hand onto the shoulder, right hand most likely inside. He leans a little bit, but in tighter quarters, you have more leniency with guys in terms of leaning, because you want to get into him fast, and you can see him roll up that power through the hips right there. He rolls it up, so he gets his hands in. He's going to drive his hips forward through his legs with his body, kind of arching upwards, and he's really generating power through the ground right here. So he rolls his hips up to generate that power, and just drives, and they take him down to the ground on that combo block. So good combo block with him. And the left guard overset, the second to last play. Oh. You guys are already seeing this before. If you've been watching long enough, look how big that B gap is, and look his foot. His foot is not splitting that guy. It's not even close to splitting. It's outside of his outside foot. So he oversets right here. So in this situation where the guy is one delayed off the snap, just run your feet. Just root your feet. Root them down. Just run them. Foot fire, whatever you want to call it. So he oversets, and then look what he does. Kind of panics with his feet, splits, hops backwards, and throws both hands wide. If anything, instead of doing that, power step right here. Step in this same stance, but inside, so you get tighter to this. Make the B gap tighter, but instead he hops backwards and throws his hands wide. Again, an NFL guy, a good NFL guy, he's gonna see him oversetting. He's gonna continue upfield. He's gonna cross your face paired with a chop, and good luck stopping him there. So not the best edge, and he might also have good 80 pounds on him, but he's able to reset. He drops the post, and does he pass him? No, or push him past. I don't know why I'm screwing up my words there, but not a good play from him. Overset, and even with the recovery, just not a good recovery. Just throwing his hands like that instead of power stepping or dropping the post earlier. Next play and the last play. Thomas rides outside. All right. Okay. 8 in the box again. 5 men on the line. He's working against the 4 tech right here. Thomas versus the 4 tech. And he is going to, again, take that drop step. A lot of colleges are doing that. I don't necessarily know if it's because they want to read and react type deal or whatever it may be, instead of like a ricochet or whatever. But here again, he too much waist spend in his run game. I want to see a better base right here, because you're ducking your head. You're not creating full power when your body is, almost like an upside down L. You're just not generating as much force. So you want to be better at that with the NFL. And because of that, like that drop step, it's kind of forcing him to lean a little bit, or maybe making him think he has to lean. But I don't necessarily love that footwork right there, but gets into the guy. And he's in the four technique. The D end is going to fight to stay to the outside. And with this being what looks like an inside zone, that's fine. You're defining that B gap for him now. Now that B gap is going to be, even bigger. Obviously, a lot of guys get in quickly here on the running back. The running back's still able to pick up what looks like to be a first down, or almost a first down. But good and bad here by Thomas. Good job by him. Not trying to fight to stay in front of him or anything like that. Just riding him to the outside. Once he gets outside, just redirect your force and keep pushing him outside. Let him go where he wants to go. That's the good thing about zone. So that's it for the Thomas review. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit shorter with some of these guys. It's not going to be as in-depth as two McGovern reviews because I don't have the film necessary to do it. I wish I could get a little bit more in-depth with some of these guys if I had better angles. Try to do, mostly the best job I can, or mostly, and say I do the best job I can with these guys. Appreciate everybody for listening. I'll be back. It's Thursday. The show should be posted up in a couple of hours. And then we will be back on, like I said, most likely Saturday with Becton, and then Monday with Wirfs. And we're just going to keep chugging along at the potential draft targets for the Jets. 3 weeks from today, the NFL draft is going on. It's going to be interesting to see how it's held in terms of over FaceTime, Zoom, Facebook Live. Like, I don't know what it's going to be. I'm telling you right now, if I'm watching it and it starts to freeze up and it goes out and the stream gets disconnected and all this crap, and I'm putting it on my TV, I'm going to be pissed. So they better figure out a network to stream or something. I don't know. They better figure it out. But it's a good distraction. I see people like, oh my God, people are worried about draft prospects right now. Look what's going on in the world. Okay, what am I supposed to do? Just sit in my room and watch the news all day and worry about it? So I hope this gives people good distraction, but be smart, stay inside, especially, not especially if you're from my area, but New Jersey, tri-state area is bad right now. So, but even if you were in Texas or something like that, just be smart, stay freaking inside. It's not that big of a deal. People are fighting wars, saving the world, and we just got to stay inside and watch TV to potentially save people's lives. So let's just stay inside, please. I will be back in a couple of days. I will see you guys on Twitter whenever. Like I said, 5-star review. It's awesome for me, for the website. Helps us get out to people. We got 5 more reviews. I'm choosing somebody random for a free subscription, lifetime subscription to the website, which includes numbers and film breakdowns and the podcast and so much different things. And even if you don't want the free subscription,